Hey.
Hey.
Hey there.
We're jumping right in.
We are jumping right in.
We're jumping right into your ear holes and down into your sweet, sweet brain stem. Just swimming around in all that gray matter. Because we got shit to talk about this week, folks.
We got a lot to talk about.
We really do.
So.
I mean, we always have a lot to talk about, but
yeah.
we got a lot to talk about.
It's pretty intense this week, right?
Yeah. Which is exactly why we're jumping right in. We're not doing our shop spotlight that we usually do. We're not doing our podcast spotlight that we usually do because we gotta get down to business to defeat the Huns.
This is our podcast, and we can do whatever the fuck we want to.
That's very true. That is a fair point. So if we want to not research a shop, we fucking can.
Exactly.
So before we get started, we do want to take a moment to recognize our awesome Patreon people that are partying with us over there. One of the things that we do for our Patreons or our patrons on Patreon, I don't really know. Are individual patrons called Patreons? Or is it a Patreon that has patrons?
They are a patron.
A patron of the Patreon.
A patron saint.
A patron saint. That'll be important later in the game.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, one of the things that we like to do for our patrons on Patreon, these are the people that are helping us make the show for you and keep putting out awesome content. And so we like to recognize them on the show because we feel that's important.
Yes,
so we are going to invoke their names now, and we send them all kinds of positive happy vibes for their week.
Yes, we have a candle lit for each of you.
We do. So I'm going to start with Christy W. Thank you, Christy.
Yay, Christy.
Yay. And then we have Alicia C.
Alicia.
And Alicia is from Hello Gorgeous. I'm just going to shout out her shop because it's awesome.
Again, one of our Insta besties.
Mm-hmm. And then we have Carrie W.
Yay,
who is a new patron, and we love her very much.
We do love her. We love all of you.
We do. We love you all. Thank you so much for helping. And for the rest of you, if you haven't checked out the Patreon, you really, really should. We're amping up content on there. We're dropping all sorts of bonus audio and visual content. We put a video on last week of our reaction to the new Halloween movie trailer, and it was like 30 minutes long. It's like half an episode.
Yeah.
So it's like a fair amount of content.
And those are so fun to make too. Like
they really are.
I'm kind of into it.
Mm-hmm. It's very fucking cat. It's like having a moment.
Anyway.
No, it's very cool because then like it's just I don't know. It's just a different sort of relationship. I feel like over there because we can just. I don't know. We can be face to face and like do silly things, and I mean we do silly things here, but
it's like even more.
Yeah,
it's even more so.
Yeah,
but I'm really excited to start creating more content because it's like we did our first like big one, and so now it's like what can we do next?
Right. Yes. So, and we are.
And I'm getting like ideas. Like I'm sitting at work, like it's supposed to be working, and I'm like texting Katie with like.
I mean, you are working. You're just working for yourself, girl.
Yes.
Oftentimes, we do our notes and shit for the show, and then we have to cut the show off at like a little over an hour, and we'll like have stuff that's left over. So like with last episode, I had some stuff that I didn't get to at all, and so we posted it on the Patreon for patrons to check out. So if you want more Haunted Heart, that's the way to get it.
Yes.
Babe.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir.
Come party with us. The other way to play with us is the Facebook group.
Come play with us.
Mm-hmm. The Facebook group is awesome. We have, again, I'm going to say it again this week because I said it last week and more people started posting. So I'm going to say it again. I love when other people post on the Facebook group. You can post any kind of shit to me, any kind of like haunted or true crime shit or anything, whatever. Yeah. Post your weekend plans. Post a photo of you, I don't know, at the gym. No, but post to us, and we love the idea of the Facebook being super collaborative. I'm having a stroke.
God, Katie, no, 911.
I'm having a stroke. We love the idea of the Facebook being super collaborative and just kind of a fun community space for you guys to, say whatever you want to say. Yeah. It's a closed group, so you don't have to worry about anybody else that you're friends with on Facebook seeing it. So can't nobody see our shit. It's our secret clubhouse. It's our Slytherin dungeon.
In case you didn't know, Katie and I are both Slytherins.
What would you guys think that we were if we weren't Slytherin?
Don't answer that.
Anywho.
All right, so.
And that's it. That's all the housekeeping. Obviously, we're on Instagram and Twitter. Search The Haunted Heart on Twitter. Search The Haunted Heart Podcast on Instagram. Hang out with us there, too, but that's it.
Yeah.
That's it. That's all the boring stuff.
It's all the social media stuff. All right, so what are we talking about today? What is the heat on this meat that we are serving?
Whoa. that was a lot. I kind of liked it, though.
I liked it.
It was good.
I came up with it in the moment. Talent. You're welcome.
We are talking good old-fashioned demon possession.
Now, Katie, have you ever been possessed by a demon?
There have been times when I think other people might have described it as me being possessed by a demon. But no. No, I don't think I've ever been possessed by anything.
Okay. Yeah, no, you have too strong a personality.
Yeah, I feel like I maybe have possessed other people. That might be a thing.
The demon steps inside your body and it's like, fuck.
Damn, it is hot in here.
She is fucked up, man.
God, I gotta get the fuck out. This bitch is crazy as
in
hell.
And there's already
hot.
Carved upside down, crosses carved inside.
All the colors are inversed, and
she
it's just
did
like
that
acid
in the womb,
blood.
Motherfucker. What?
What? You want to be in here? You want to fucking be in here?
Please,
sure.
Take
Have
control.
It.
Take control.
Have it.
Take control, please. Please.
The demon's leaving, and I'm pleading with, don't leave me.
Abandonment issues.
And it's real. And it's real. Now we're in the real place.
So, yes, demon possessions. You cannot find a more you can find a topic that is darker, I'm sure, but this is a pretty dark topic, and it's, I'm the horror movie buff. I can't go without mentioning some of my favorites. You obviously The Exorcist.
You gotta obligatory
Especially,
mention of The Exorcist.
The one thing though, I've lived in this area for a little over a year now, and have yet.
I know. We got to do that.
Went to see the Exorcist steps.
Bitch, there's a cupcake shop right beside that too.
So you telling me we can go get a cupcake?
We fucking can. We better get a red velvet one though.
Bitch, I'm gonna get
the most gothy cupcake they have, and then go walk by the steps. They did recently put a little chain up so you can't go up the steps.
I don't give a fuck about no chain.
He said on the podcast that he's distributing, and later the police are like, "No, you admitted it." He taped his own confession. We don't know what happened.
I'm just being carted off.
That would
by
be
the police.
Cool, though, and that would be a cool video. That would be a cool video that we could share. We should try to do that.
Yeah.
We should fucking do anything other than sit here with no pants on.
For real.
Recording this podcast.
Well, shit. I got pants on.
I'm disappointed in you.
Anyway, yes. Also, did you ever see The Taking of Deborah Logan on Netflix?
Yes, when that bitch opened up her fucking mouth and just straight up swallowed that child's head.
Uh-huh.
Fuck that. That disturbed me. I was disturbed.
She was terrifying in that movie.
Did you know there's a whole genre of fantasy? I don't want to call it porn, but I will call it highly sexualized porn that's about that.
About what?
It's about like swallowing people or children whole. Like it's about.
I'm a little concerned with how you know this.
Well, no, I know it because it was covered on a podcast that I've mentioned on here before. I mean, they're super fucking famous, so I'm pretty sure that you probably know them if you're listening to our Rinky Dink podcast. But Last Podcast on the Left has an episode about it, and it was fucking disturbing. And, like, they cover a lot of crazy topics, but, like, yeah, there's, like, this whole section of the internet that, like, is this weird fetish for, like, eating people alive, like a snake.
Oh, like just like cannibalism.
It's like cannibalism, but it's, like, a subsect of cannibalism that is, like, specifically obsessed with swallowing a child or another person like a snake swallows eggs. So you're not like taking bites and you're not cooking them. You literally just like swallow them whole.
How?
It's absurd. You should read it, but don't read it. You should listen to that episode. You should let the boys at Last Podcast fucking read it for you and take that onto their minds.
Yeah.
Because you will be scarred if you try to find it.
I'm sure. You had The Rite with Anthony Hopkins. That was a good
right
one.
back to demon possession.
Yeah, right back to demon possession.
I love me some Anthony Hopkins.
Yes, love him. The Exorcism of Emily Rose.
Yeah, which I'm dabbling in that one today. So thanks for fucking mentioning it.
Yes. Love all of those films. And a lot of people get a little disturbed by those. Like my mother, to this day, refuses to watch The Exorcist. Will not.
Well, my mom had the same experience. So she has an Exorcist story, and everybody has an Exorcist story, right? Because when the movie came out in 73, 76, 73? 76.
We literally talked about this on one episode.
70, hang on. I know.
73.
So when it came out in 73, like nobody had ever seen anything like that before. So it was very, like it was groundbreaking. And part of the publicity for the movie was to like kind of like overstate people's reactions to it. And it was brilliant marketing because it was cheap and it also really freaked people out. But to this day, it still kind of has that stigma around it because of the way that it was marketed.
Yeah.
But my mother, and this is 100% true, her Exorcist story, in her first marriage, her in-laws, that movie had like just come out not too terribly long before that, maybe like 10 years. And they rented it and they were going to watch it at the house one night at their house. And it broke the VCR. So they were like, oh, that's weird. Whatever. It must have just been a bad tape. So then later, she and her husband, her then husband at the time, they rented it again because she really wanted to see it, or they really wanted to see it, or whatever. And it broke another VCR. And so she was like, I'm good, actually. I'm fine. If, and all the tape came out of the, like, cassette tape and all that stuff. So it was not good. So then fast forward, like, 10 or 12 years later, and she was married to second husband, my dad. And she had a, like, very, very, like, strict rule that movie was not to come into the house because she had like somehow gotten it into her head that she was not supposed to watch that movie, and that's why it was breaking all of her shit. So he, of course, disobeyed her. I wonder why they're not married anymore. He disobeyed her, and while she was at work one day, like he went and rented The Exorcist from the Blockbuster. Moment of silence. I miss you, Blockbuster.
Oh my God.
So he goes and rents The Exorcist from the Blockbuster and brings it home, puts it in the VHS player, and of fucking course, it like breaks it. The VHS player is like smoking. All of the film comes off the VHS tape. It's just like fucking ridiculous. And I saw that because I was alive at that point. And I remember that. She was so fucking mad. And she like sold that VCR at like a yard sale.
So somebody picked up that possessed VCR.
For fucking sure. I was like, why did you sell it? Why did you not like fucking bury it in a hole somewhere surrounded by salt? That's what I would have done. Set it on fire, bury it, salt the earth. That's it.
Yeah.
Not sell it to somebody else. She was like, whatever. Fuck that person.
Fuck them.
Somewhere that person has like a vendetta against me and my family.
Yeah, they really do.
They come in for me, man.
Yeah.
They listen to the podcast. This is it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, people get funny when it comes to exorcisms and demon possession, and with good reason. I mean, some of the stories that you hear about demon possession are pretty fucking horrifying.
They're intense. I know that Catholicism itself has, like, differentiating, like, types of possession.
Mm-hmm.
So they have what they call ordinary, like, satanic and demonic activity or influence.
Is it like that chart that you see when you go to the doctor, like the pain chart that, like, has the emojis and it, like, starts off with a smiley face and in the end it's just, like, the demon face?
Sir, are you doing okay? Okay.
Clearly not.
Which face are you?
Just point to the face, sir.
But yes, they so they have different ones. So they have the ordinary ones, and then they have the extraordinary satanic and demonic activity. And there are 6 different forms.
Okay.
Ranging from complete control by Satan or some demon to voluntary submission. So you have number 1, which is possession, in which Satan or some demon takes full possession of a person's body without their knowledge or consent, so the victim is therefore morally blameless. They didn't consent.
Okay.
Then you have obsession, which includes sudden attacks of irrationally obsessive thoughts, usually culminating in suicidal ideation and typically influences dreams.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have oppression, in which there is no loss of consciousness or involuntary action, such as in the biblical book of Job, in which Job was tormented by a series of misfortunes in business, family, and health. So this is just where the demon is literally just oppressing every part of your life. And then you have external, which is like physical pain caused by Satan or demons. You have infestation, which affects houses, things, or animals.
Okay.
And then you have subjection, in which a person voluntarily submits to Satan or the demon.
Right.
And there is actually a 7th one that I don't think is recognized by the Catholic Church, but it's out there, and that is called familiarization. And that seeks to come and live with the subject. If accepted, the spirit becomes the constant and continuously present companion of the possessed. The two persons, the familiar and the possessed, remain separate and distinct. The possessed is aware of his familiar.
Oh, so it kind of has it's separate from the familiar.
Yeah. So
it's like a relationship.
Yeah, it's like us, Katie.
That's beautiful.
It's just
Which
like
one's
us.
The demon, though?
I think we alternate.
Do we share?
Yeah, I think we share.
We just bounce back and forth like ping pong.
Yeah. Someday, you take Tuesday, I take Wednesday.
That's true. That's fair. We do have a schedule.
So, yes, those are some of the different types of possession that can take place when, you are being troubled with the demons.
So, I was kind of looking up, how would I know if Kenny was possessed?
Oh, bitch.
How would I know?
Who?
Before he starts spewing pea soup everywhere. So,
No. I like pea soup.
I looked up on this website, it's called Catholic News Agency. I want to get all my news from there.
The CNA.
The CNA. So they had a list of common signs of demon or demonic possession. One of them is fucking stuttering, clearly. I'm suffering from it. But they had a list of signs of demonic possession, and they may sound more familiar to you than you think. So the first was a strong aversion to spirituality, and that can be any form of spirituality. They're not just talking the fuck me Jesus stuff. They're talking yoga. They're talking going to yoga, going to churches, going to mosques, any type of spirituality or any sort of introspective activity. A possessed person might show a strong aversion to. A possessed person may feel a feeling of being blocked creatively or emotionally. They may have a drinking or drug problem that often severely changes their behavior, not just you turn up and you become fun Veronica. Not that sort of change, but
She's
more
fun now.
but more, I guess, exaggerated changes in personality. Odd, out of character behavior can also be a sign of demonic possession. And then feeling a presence other than your loved one near you. Meaning, if you're alone.
Like a loved one's spirit?
Or yeah, like sometimes when you're alone, like you can kind of feel like, I've had that feeling before that like somebody else is there, but it's not a scary feeling. It's just okay, well that's this person or that person, or that they're there, and it's not a threatening feeling.
Right.
But this is feeling somebody who is not that, but just an entity.
Okay.
A possessed person would stop getting along with people sometimes. Then they'll complain of hearing voices. And then sometimes you have symptoms of self-harm, most frequently scratching and pulling hair out. And then severe night terrors that sometimes will occur during the day as well. Some of those, though, like a drinking or a drug problem, we don't commonly think of that as demonic possession, but...
Well, I can definitely see and, recognize how the church would take something like that, like, the demon or Satan or the devil, whatever, right, is using that person through the drugs. Like, almost like it's not necessarily absolving that person of their actions, but, like, putting a blame.
Giving a why.
Yeah, giving a why.
To addiction.
Yeah, giving a why
to addiction. I think that's probably a large part of it, but to play devil's advocate,
Excellent.
It was a demon joke.
Excellent.
I'm good.
Go us.
To play devil's advocate, I could see how something like alcohol or drugs could kind of put you in a state of altered mind, where you could potentially be more open to all types of spirits. You know what I mean? Not necessarily just demons, but
right.
Since the beginning of time, people have been using mind-altering substances to kind of open themselves up to different kinds of spirituality and different planes.
We have talked about that on the podcast.
We have. So I can kind of see their point there.
I can see how the drug can like physically like alter your mind and open it up, and then like that could be a door that something else could come through.
Yes, exactly.
I could see it going both. It could probably go both ways.
Right.
I think the tough part is distinguishing between the two.
Right. And according to the Catholic News Agency, the only true way to diagnose demon possession is by holding sustained prayer in order to provoke a reaction from what they call the adversary. So that's kind of what they refer to as the demon or demons.
I kind of like that name.
The adversary. It's a capital A, too. It's
adversary. The adversary versus the vanguard.
Which I was going to say the vanguard. Like, you're about to pull. Are you about to pull a vanguard and call yourself the adversary?
No, I'm rooting for the adversary, like to fight the fucking vanguard. Like, if I was to choose a team based on name, bitch, I'm going with the adversary.
It is pretty badass. So the Catholic Church has fallen under fire for many reasons, of course, but specific to demonic possession, a lot of people have criticized the Catholic Church for their practice of exorcisms, because a lot of the symptoms of exorcisms or of demonic possession can manifest as mental illness, and vice versa. So they're very similar. And, if you have a Catholic priest who's just going to pray at you and what you need is some good drugs, it's not going to help,
Some good drugs.
Right. So they allege, the Catholic Church alleges that they do try to separate demonic possession from mental illness. And this was a quote from the Catechism. I'm sorry if I'm saying this wrong. I didn't grow up Catholic. But it's a quote.
She grew up Southern Baptist.
Yes, I did, honey.
Southern Baptist.
Dancing barefoot in them pews, honey.
Bless her heart.
Bless it. Bless
That's
it,
what
Lord.
she would say to the devil. Bless your heart.
Bless your heart, honey. Can I get you some cornbread? You just sit on down. Let me get you some cornbread. Let me get you some cobbler. You're gonna be just all right.
This is a side note and complete off topic, but do you remember? Did you see that meme where it was that lady in prison and it's got her little dialogue or little subtitles on there, and it's she's like, "They call me cornbread because I shot my husband while he was eating cornbread."
Sometimes...
And then she went on to say, "And nobody eats with me." That's fine.
Sometimes you just look into the future and you just see yourself looking back at you.
They call me cornbread.
I see it. I see it.
Sorry for the distraction.
No, it's fine. So I was going to share from paragraph 1673 of what is no doubt a riveting read, the Catechism of the Catholic Church by Pope John Paul. I think I broke Kenny.
I don't know why the fuck that was so funny to me.
It really wasn't. So Pope John Paul, 1992, the Catechism of the Catholic Church. Quote, exorcism is directed at the expulsion of demons or to the liberation from demonic possession through the spiritual authority which Jesus entrusted to his church. Illness, especially psychological illness, is a very different matter, treating this as the concern of medical science. Therefore, before an exorcism is performed, it is important to ascertain that one is dealing with the presence of the evil one and not an illness. Mm-hmm. So they do kind of directly confront that.
Yes.
Whether the steps aren't really spelled out for how to, of course, discern whether it is mental illness or the presence of an evil one, beyond just saying pray profusely. But if you're having a schizophrenic episode, praying's not gonna... You may react to that, and that doesn't necessarily mean that you're possessed by the devil.
Right.
But exorcists believe that their power comes directly from God. And there's a big movement in the Catholic Church for exorcists to stay humble and I guess not be like the rock stars of Catholicism.
I have all the power.
Right.
Cast your ass out.
So they are fighting they're fighting demons on behalf of Christ.
Well, that's nice.
Yes. So, but what interested me when I was researching for this week was kind of the crossover between demonic possession and mental illness. Mm-hmm. And there, unfortunately, are so many stories where that I kind of read about this week where I truly believe that we were dealing with a mental illness. And not that I don't believe that demonic possession is a thing, but I do think that there are times when treatment is necessary, and sometimes the practices of exorcists can be too much.
Yeah.
And probably the most famous case of that was the case of Anneliese Michel.
Yes. Yeah.
So
also known through the film, The Exorcism of Emily Rose.
Yep. 2005. I actually went to see that movie in theaters.
I saw it maybe once, but I think it was I saw it. I think I rented it or something.
Yeah.
I can't remember.
I saw it in theaters because I lied to my mom, right? Because my mom has this whole history with The Exorcist. And so she is not about any kind of... Because she very much believes that, if demons are all around and they can infiltrate at any time, then a demon... What's to stop a demon from coming through your TV screen? Which...
Or your mirrors.
Right. Which is why you always sage those twice, honey. I sage my TV screens twice as well. But that's due to an urban legend that I heard a long time ago. Why can't I fucking speak today?
Maybe you're being busy. Oh, fuck. Oh, shit.
Should we stop? We gonna keep going.
All right.
Anyway. So I snuck out and I told her that I was seeing something. I don't even know if I told her I was going to the movies, but I snuck out and I saw that movie with my friends because my stupid ass friends wanted to go. And so I go in, and yeah, not Kenny. Although you probably would have fucking done that shit too.
I would have went.
Yeah. So my stupid ass friends dragged me to this thing, and I'm like very spiritually sensitive. So I'm like kind of feeling like I'm fucking like in a dangerous situation, you know? But I watch it because I'm not a pussy. With my like thumbs in my ears and my fingers over my eyes. Between my fingers, I watch it. And it wasn't a bad movie. It was all right. It was your standard exorcism film.
Yeah, I don't remember
do much for
a
me.
whole lot from it because, like I said, I literally only saw it one time. But for what I do remember of it, it was pretty like the acting was pretty great. Like I can't remember her name, but like the way I just remember the way she would contort her body, and I remember that being like really freaky.
Yeah. That and like, you know, it was 2005, so like we hadn't seen a ton of that before as far as like it actually looking halfway decent CGI wise. And so I think they did like there was one scene, I think they're in a barn or something, and like her back bends all the way back and you just fucking hear everything in it snap.
Yes.
That was fucked. But what I do remember from that movie, the thing that I took away was the ending. So towards the end of the film, you know, she's been through all of these episodes and they're doing all these exorcisms on her and they're trying to get her well. And she's been through all of these different episodes and she walks out into this field. And I think there may have been a tree there or whatever, but she has stigmata on her hands. Stigmata appear. Stigmata being the holes in the palms of your hands, where Jesus was nailed to the cross. It's supposed to be a symbol for martyrdom and all that stuff. So the stigmata appear and she's dressed all in white and she like almost has a conversation with the demon. And then when she comes back or somebody goes out to her or something, she basically says something to the effect of that she has decided to die to defeat the demon. Mm-hmm. And it's like this sacrificial thing, and it almost becomes this Christ-like thing. And it was like this very heightened moment of sacrifice, right? And it was beautiful in that sense because you're like, wow, you know, she is such a strong, you know, compelling person to, you know, give into this battle so that she can take this demon down too, right? And that's what you were left with. That's really fucked up in the context of the story that I'm about to tell. So, the real life Anneliese Michel, that was not the story at all. It is the story that her exorcists tried to tell. So, Anneliese Michel was born September 21st, 1952, in Bavaria, West Germany, to a Roman Catholic family. And her parents, Joseph and Anna, were very, very religious. Like super ridiculously religious. Yeah. Like long jean skirt and summer religious. And scrunchies. So Anneliese attended the University of Würzburg, where her classmates described her as withdrawn and very religious. And unfortunately, Anneliese had a history of mental illness from a very young age. At 16, she was diagnosed with psychosis caused by temporal lobe epilepsy after she had a couple seizures. Mm-hmm. And then shortly after, she was diagnosed with depression. Little while later, she started experiencing visual and auditory hallucinations for which she'd been hospitalized. And it's not unusual for someone who is dealing with epilepsy to have those sorts of hallucinations from what I've read. But Anneliese described seeing devil faces.
Ooh.
Yes, she called them, quote, devil faces. And by age 20, she had developed an aversion to religious iconography. And she also started complaining of hearing voices. So some people have...
how old was she?
20.
Sounds about right.
20. So is that in your experience?
I mean, you just start hitting your 20s and...
It's rough.
You know, it goes downhill.
No, so the symptoms that she describes in all seriousness do sound like schizophrenia.
Yeah,
I'm not a licensed professional. And a lot of people who have complained of demonic possession have turned out to have schizophrenia. Certainly not all, but there's a crossover there with the voices and the demon faces and things like that. She was actually treated. For 5 years, she took psychiatric medication. She took Dilantin, which is a very common epilepsy drug, and Aolept, which I've never heard of before. But she got worse and worse and eventually became suicidal. So at this point in 1975, Anneliese is 22, and her parents seek out the assistance of religion, basically, because the doctor's treatments weren't really working. So they reached out to a priest in their community. It was actually a Lutheran priest that they reached out to, and he encouraged them to reach out to a Catholic priest.
Oh.
Which is interesting. Anneliese's parents reached out to Ernst Alt, who was a Catholic priest, and Arnold Renz. And these were the two Catholic priests that would treat Anneliese for the entirety of her episode, basically. So beginning at age 22, Anneliese underwent 10 months of Catholic exorcism rites. They performed nearly 70 exorcisms on her total.
Ugh.
And the first one was performed on September 24th. And they said that like these things would last between that they would do 1 or 2 exorcisms a week, and that they would last up to 4 hours. And they were performed, they performed 67 over 10 months between 1975 and 1976. Towards the end, Anneliese began talking increasingly about, quote, and these are her words, dying to atone for the wayward youth of the day and the apostate priests of the modern church, end quote. So she started talking about like all the sin that was in the world.
Oh.
And she herself dying as a way of absolving some of the modern sin.
Gotcha.
So
Like Jesus.
yes. Yep, exactly. So apparently, according to these exorcists, she began talking about that. And die she did. In July of 1976, Anneliese, having endured almost 70 exorcisms, passed away at the age of 23. They said that towards the end, she stopped eating and drinking, and an autopsy performed after her death, obviously, declared that her death was a result of emaciation, malnutrition, and starvation at the hands of her priests and her family. They said that at the time of her death, she weighed only 30 kilograms, which is 68 pounds.
Oh, shit.
68 pounds. Have you seen pictures of her?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
I mean, it's just absolutely.
Yeah, especially like around the eyes. Like
it's
terrible.
Yeah. She had also, and this is something that I actually didn't know before I started researching this topic. She had broken both of her knees due to continuous genuflections, which is the word of the day for the haunted heart.
Genuflections. I read something about this, I think. That's like praying, right?
Genuflection is bending the knee to the ground in a prayer stance. So she had done that so much that her fucking knees were broken. Both of her knees were broken.
That's insane.
Yes. She was unable to move without assistance, and supposedly she had pneumonia at the time of her death as well. So, I mean, it was just awful.
That's tragic, man.
Yeah. And some of the practices of exorcism, like the stuff that they would do to her, was like they would burn her, and they would like almost like waterboard her. I mean, a lot of it is like torture.
Well, the one thing that's like kind of interesting to me is that I had kind of always thought that like an exorcism was like a one thing. You know what I mean? Like you perform the exorcism that expels the demon.
By the end of it, the demon comes out.
Gone,
yeah,
right?
It's like black smoke that comes out of your mouth, like in practical.
You know what I mean? Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
No, but I mean like that just like it's an exorcism. Like an exorcism is supposed to be like the thing to get the demon out. And I can understand like, you know, if you have a rather what's the word I'm looking for? Precarious? No.
Pernicious?
Pernicious. A very pernicious demon.
A precariously pernicious, you know?
Demon that it might, like, take a while, but, like, she had 70 exorcisms.
67. She had 67.
Almost
yeah, it was
70.
almost 70.
Almost 70 exorcisms.
Yes.
That is insane to me.
Yeah.
Like, I'd be like, all right, y'all, like, if after, like, the third one, I'm like, well, I guess this is me now.
Yeah, I mean, they were doing, like, 1 or 2 a week.
That's insane.
Yeah.
No, I guess it's not working. I guess I'm just going
to...
All right, babe. Like, I guess it's me and you, demon. It's me and you now,
You
Satan.
would move to the familiarity stage.
Yeah, we just moved straight from the damn oppression and possession to straight, we moving in.
We moving in together. Put a ring on it.
We moving in. You
put a ring on it, bitch.
Put a motherfucking ring on it now.
Make a real woman of me, Satan.
Hey, that's kind of hot.
It is a little hot. Whew.
So, that's really interesting.
Yeah.
But tragic.
So, do you want to find out what happened to the priests?
Oh. Well, of course.
So the priests that were involved were investigated and were charged with negligent homicide. They were found guilty of manslaughter.
Of course.
And they were originally sentenced to 6 months in jail. Originally sentenced to 6 months in jail, but the charge was later reduced to 3 years of probation as well as a fine.
Slap on the wrist.
So this girl died. And nobody went to prison because the family was deemed to have, quote, suffered enough.
So, yeah,
and
what
were
happened
not
with the
prosecuted.
Parents?
They weren't prosecuted. Originally, they were also going to be charged with negligent homicide. And some of the reports that you look up about this case will say that they were charged with negligent homicide. They actually were not. There's a clause in German law that it has to do with, like, family or something, but, like, the family of a murder victim and them having, like, suffered enough basically by losing their family member. And so they basically got all charges dropped. Nobody served any jail time. And this girl was fucking 30 kilograms. She was 68 pounds. And we'll post pictures for those of you who are interested on the Facebook and probably on the Patreon. But, I mean, I will say that it's, like, very disturbing.
Yeah. You almost, like, it almost looks
non-human.
Fake.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it almost looks fake.
Yeah.
But it's not.
It's not. It's not. They're not doctored photos, and it's not a fake story. I mean, you can look it up. It's, yeah. But we'll post them, but we'll do it with a trigger warning of sorts, and we won't throw it up in your face.
Right.
But for those of you who are interested. Yeah. And then just an interesting postscript. In 2013, actually, so this whole thing happened in 1976, is when she passed away.
Yeah.
And in 2013, a fire mysteriously broke out in the house where Anneliese Michel lived. And although the local police said it was a case of arson, some locals attribute it to the exorcism case.
Like the demon was, like...
I mean, either that or Anneliese herself. I'd be pissed as hell.
Anneliese,
I mean,
yeah,
fuck.
Oh, yeah, okay. I could roll
I
with
would
that.
for fucking sure.
I'm gonna
be
burn
pissed.
this motherfucker down. You would turn like into that girl off of Silent Hill.
Oh yeah. What is her name? Fuck. I love Silent Hill. Oh well. It's not. It's not happening.
Nope, not happening.
Yep, we'll figure it out later. You know her. The girl.
Yeah. So that kind of actually leads into my subject for this evening. Mm. So in my research, I came across the name. Like I was researching exorcisms and possession, and like the one name that like kept coming up for me was Dr. Richard Gallagher.
Yes. I'm glad you texted me about this guy because he came up in a lot of my stuff too. And
right.
I knew to just like, I didn't even read the stuff about him because I was like, I know he's going to talk about that, so I don't want to know it in advance.
Right. So this guy is an Ivy League trained, board-certified psychiatrist. He teaches at Columbia University and New York Medical College. And it is this man of science who is also your go-to guy for demonic possession. And I mean that in exactly that way. Like, he actually believes in demonic possession. Now, however, Dr. Gallagher did not start out this way. Like many others, he believed that demonic possession was a blanket diagnosis used to explain most mental disorders, which I'm sure was most definitely the case in some instances, especially like in history, you know.
Oh, yeah.
He says that demonic possession is real and that he has witnessed true cases of possession. For the past 25 years, he has been called in by exorcists to determine if what they have is the real deal or if there's just simply a medical issue.
Right.
He estimates that he has seen more cases of possession than any medical professional in the world. He works very closely with Reverend Gary Thomas, who is one of the most famous exorcists in the United States. And then, again, going back to the Anthony Hopkins movie, The Rite, that was actually based off some work by the Reverend. So these two have worked pretty closely together with mutual respect for the other, which, for me, is to be commended. As much as I'm not a quote-unquote science man, I definitely fully support the marriage between science and the supernatural. And I think that it's rather limiting to think that either one exists on their own separate planes.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that the supernatural picks up where science, because if you ever talked with a science person, because I love science people.
Yeah.
My type is like usually the science person. I love a good.
She swipes right on science.
I fucking absolutely do.
Is it right?
I think it's right. I think right is. Neither one of us have ever fucking used Tinder, so we have no fucking clue.
She swipes
completely
right for
inauthentic.
Science.
Yeah, I do.
That's your next.
Sign or hashtag.
That's your next
hashtag
sign
swipe right for science.
Yeah, for
actually that would be good for the science march.
Yeah, I was gonna say for the science march.
Yeah, but I love me a man who thinks he knows everything. I just do, honestly. But if you ever talked with a scientist, like you ask them to explain things down to a certain level, and they can get pretty far depending on how smart they are and depending on how much, what their field is. They can explain it down to a certain point, and then they can't really explain it any further than that.
Right.
And I feel like that's where the supernatural and magic and everything like that we're so steeped in, I think that's where that picks up.
Yeah.
And I think the two really work together.
Yeah, totally. Completely agree. So, Dr. Gallagher was first called in to assist with a middle-aged woman described as wearing very dark, flowy clothing, dark makeup, but still very charming and engaging.
Is this me? Is this woman me?
Yes.
Is it me?
Yeah.
It sounds like it's me.
But also the queen of a satanic cult.
I mean, where's the lie?
There is no lie.
Where's the lie?
Now, I also just kind of want to side note and clarify that we are both aware of the negative stereotypes associated with Satanism. And I just feel that, I want to take a moment to just clarify that Satanism itself does not promote the belief of Satan worshiping.
Not true. Yeah.
In fact, they believe in a separation of religion and superstition.
Yes.
And Satan is merely a symbol for rebellion.
Yes.
They promote critical thinking and reasonable agnosticism and are generally really cool people who also actually do a lot of philanthropic work. So
yes. Yep.
Just wanted to point that out there because I know that there's a lot of negative, ooh, Satanism,
no. It's not about stripping naked and dancing in the moonlight, except for if you're stripping naked and dancing in the moonlight just to prove to society that you can strip naked and dance in the moonlight.
Yes.
That's the point.
Yes.
And also it's fun to strip naked and dance in the moonlight.
Yeah. So I found an article. Also this guy's Irish.
God damn it.
And my article is from irishcentral.com.
I'm going to write a letter to 23andMe, and I'm going to fucking Yell at them for having cursed me with this for the rest of my life.
For the rest of your fucking life.
God. To those of you who haven't listened to the Celtic episode, Kenny found out that he's like some percentage Irish, and now he just fucking is running with it. He is running so fucking hard with it.
Anyway, so I'm gonna pull some pieces from this article where Dr. Gallagher actually speaks himself about this instance.
Oh, a direct quote.
Oh, yes. So, he says, I was introduced to a self-styled satanic high priestess. She called herself a witch and dressed the part, with flowing dark clothes and black eyeshadow around to her temples. In many discussions, she acknowledged worshiping Satan as his queen. I'm a man of science and a lover of history. After studying the classics at Princeton, I trained in psychiatry at Yale and in psychoanalysis at Columbia. That background is why a Catholic priest had asked my professional opinion, which I offered pro bono, about whether this woman was suffering from a mental disorder. I was inclined to skepticism, but my subject's behavior exceeded what I could explain with my training. She could tell some people their secret weaknesses. She knew how individuals she'd never known had died, including my mother and her fatal case of ovarian cancer. 6 people later vouched to me that during her exorcisms, again, there's exorcisms, multiple, they heard her speaking multiple languages, including Latin, completely unfamiliar to her outside of her trances. This was not psychosis. It was what I can only describe as paranormal ability. I concluded that she was possessed, and much later she permitted me to tell her story. They call her Julia. That's her, like, name that they gave her. Or, you know, satanic cult queen, if you will. She was convinced from the start that she was being attacked in some way by a demon or Satan. And during the course of her lengthy and thorough evaluation, she was eventually seen by Dr. Gallagher and was asked to provide his medical and psychiatric opinion. Julia revealed a long, disturbing history of involvement with explicitly satanic groups. She had her strange abilities, those psychic abilities. She was raised a Catholic, but no longer practiced the faith. I mean,
yeah. Join the club, right?
Yeah, but with considerable ambivalence, she stated that she might need the Catholic Rite of Exorcism.
Just maybe. You know, I'm just thinking.
Yeah.
Just throwing things out there.
She was in no way psychotic. In fact, she was consistently logical, highly intelligent, and even quite engaging at times, despite her obvious turmoil. And then he goes on to say that periodically, in our presence, Julia would go into a trance state of a recurring nature. Mentally troubled individuals often dissociate, but Julia's trances were accompanied by an unusual phenomenon. Out of her mouth would come various threats, taunts, and scatological language. Phrases like, "Leave her alone, you idiot. She's ours. Leave, you imbecile priest," or "just leave." The tone of this voice differed markedly from her own, and it varied, sometimes sounding guttural and vaguely masculine, and at other points high-pitched. Most of her comments during these trances or at the subsequent exorcisms displayed a marked contempt for anything religious or sacred.
Do we think that maybe he kind of had the hots for Julia? Like, the way he describes her, like, dark flowy clothes, dark makeup that went around to her temples.
He might have.
Yet charming and engaging, despite her obvious turmoil.
Of science finding his witchy lover.
Fucking the story of my fucking dreams, babe. Come on, Richard.
So, Dr. Gallagher.
Come on, Dr. Gallagher.
So
Go ahead and exorcise this demon right out of me, babe.
Right out.
Maybe you could tie me down.
You tie me down and spit pea soup all over me. No.
No with the soup. It's a no on the soup.
No, that's a no.
No, food is for eating, and that is good.
Yes.
And sex is for sex. And that is also good. But those things
should be separate.
Yep. Because I'm real serious about eating, and I can't cross wires like that. Eating is serious business.
Yes, it is. Amen. Let me do my little cross on my chest.
Absolutely.
So, when she came out of these trances, she strongly professed no recollection of these remarks or having said anything at all. An experienced psychiatrist might well conclude that we were probably therefore dealing with a dissociated personality, or more precisely even dissociative identity disorder. What quickly made this understandable hypothesis implausible, however, were several other peculiar, though obviously related phenomena, but a sampling of which is covered here. So, because of the complexity of this case, we assembled a team to assist. At varying points, this group comprised several qualified mental health personnel, at least 4 Catholic priests, a deacon and his wife, 2 nuns, and several volunteers. We made a number of phone calls to arrange gathering together to help Julia. Julia herself was not in one of these phone discussions. She was far from the area at the time. And astonishingly, Julia's other voice would actually interrupt the telephone conversations and sometimes come in over the phone line. The voices would espouse the same messages: leave her alone, get away from her, she's ours. And Julia again said that later she was unaware of any such conversation, and yet the speech was heard distinctly by several of the team on a number of occasions. She commonly reported information about people, like the household composition, family deaths and illnesses, and
More
members of our team, without ever having observed or been informed about them. Like, we said she knew
Predicting people's deaths.
Yeah, she was
predicting
people's deaths.
His mom's death.
She even once spoke about the strange behavior of some inexplicably frenzied animals beyond her direct observation. And what that meant was, I think it might have been Dr. Gallagher's cats had went into a complete frenzy and started attacking each other randomly. And she, when he spoke to her next, she said, "So those cats really went berserk last night, didn't they?" So anyway, they get into one of the exorcisms, and she gets into her trance-like state after the prayers and invocations of the Roman ritual had been going on for a while. Again, multiple voices and sounds came out of her. Loud growls, animal-like noises. At one point, the voices spoke in foreign languages, again, including Latin and Spanish, but she only speaks English, is what she had verified to them later. The voices were noticeably attacking in nature and often insolent, blasphemous, highly scatological. They cursed and insulted the participants in the crudest way. They were frequently threatening, fighting back. At one point, she looked to the nuns and said, "Stop, you whores."
That's always good. I try to make a point to do that too.
Right. She exhibited enormous strength. Despite the religious sisters and 3 others holding her down with all their might, they struggled to restrain her. And for about 30 minutes, she actually levitated about half a foot in the air. Also, what was interesting was that the entities inside her could seem to distinguish between holy water and regular water.
I did see this part of this.
This
was the only part that I had seen.
Yeah. She would scream in pain when the blessed water was sprinkled upon her, but have no reaction to the unblessed water. And during the ceremonies, she also, as previously revealed hidden or past events in the lives of the various attendees. And so all of that, I'm like, okay, that's a little weird for me. I'm like,
yeah. Well, they talked about how they would sprinkle water on her like when she wasn't looking that was unblessed, and she would freak out. And then when she wasn't looking, they would sprinkle the holy water on her, and she would lose her shit. So it wasn't like she could see it either. Like it was like both. I mean, I think they did it a couple different times, but like the way that what I was reading is like she didn't see them come at her with the water, so she wouldn't have known whether it was holy or not, and she would have known whether it was blessed or not. And they said that like every time she reacted to the holy water, but not the regular water.
Yeah.
Honey, I'm reacting to any water because I'm not trying to have my hair be flat.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I'm going to levitate off the ground no matter what kind of water's coming at me.
So, yeah. She, so they went through several of these exorcisms, and nothing really, like, seemed to help. She eventually stopped doing the exorcism, stopped agreeing to doing them. Because she sort of felt comfortable with it and felt like she
pulled a you.
enjoyed...
She was like, no, it's fine.
Well, she said that she felt like she enjoyed, you know, that sort of ability that she had been given, like when she was in that trance-like state. Like she had come to like it, you know? Mm-hmm. And so she was just like, I'm good after that. So it was that case that like Dr. got like that really set this doctor onto like, all right, I've seen this, I believe it, but let's also like my job is to help distinguish between like the real shit and the fake.
Right. Well, not the fake.
Not the fake. I don't want to say fake. Okay. All right.
To distinguish between what needs to be treated in a religious sense, in a spiritual sense, and what needs to be treated with medication.
Yes.
With chemical balancing and medicine.
Yes. And so what happened to our Julia, the satanic cult queen?
How'd it go?
Which woman?
Doesn't sound like it went well.
So she actually called Dr. Gallagher a few years later and informed him that she was actually dying of cancer.
Fuck.
She had been diagnosed with cancer and apparently was terminal. And he offered like medical services for like, you know, to help her out, whatever he could do, to help her process or whatever.
Right.
And she was like, I'll think about that. And just never, like, she hung up and they never had contact again after that.
I'm really upset about that.
Yeah.
I feel like that was a love story, like, gone south.
Yeah.
I feel like he loved her, man. Dr. Gallagher and Julia. He shouldn't have let her go.
I'll never let you go. Yeah, so that's kind of like my little story on Dr. Gallagher. Like I said, he's had many cases after that, and he's written a book on possession. And I actually came across several articles, of course, from his peers that like sort of condemn him for his views.
Yeah,
which is to be expected.
Yeah,
And
I mean
he recognizes that. I feel like, but. I mean, those are his beliefs. So,
right.
I mean, he's seen what he's seen.
Right.
Yeah.
I
saw what I saw.
Yeah.
I saw this bitch levitate.
Right.
And this bitch told me my cats was fighting. How did she know?
How did she know they was fighting? They loud, but how did she know?
Right.
No.
I think it was more so like the voices that he heard over the phone that really like tipped him over. Because he heard her voice.
Yeah.
Like in a phone conversation between him and someone else when she was nowhere in the room.
Yeah, that's fucked.
So, not doing that.
I'm good.
Not doing that at all. So, yeah.
Kind of like how people hear our voices when we're nowhere in the room.
Right.
Every week on Wednesdays.
Every week. So.
Cool. So you have a little something special for us to end on.
I do. I really do. Well, first, you know, I guess we sort of touched on this at the start of the episode, but like just after reading all of this again, I think that there is, I'm just reiterating, like I definitely believe that there is possession that can happen and that it is real. I think that it can, dark spirits or entities can weave their way in through the mind, through mental illness. But I also believe that mental illness can just be mental illness, and that it is of the utmost importance to make sure that we are doing everything in our power to help these people.
Right.
And not to starve them to death through like 375
Yeah.
exorcisms. It's not to abuse. Like,
it can very easily, there's such a slippery slope of possession being a thing, and therefore because someone believes that a demon is possessing you and making you act the way that you're acting, then you become something other than human. And once you're something other than human, then like insane levels of abuse can happen. And there's a lot of information out there on exorcism practices and particularly in the topic of how exorcism can so quickly become abuse. I didn't want to get into that because it's really, really, really terrible shit. But, you know, I mean, mental illness is something that throughout the history of the world has always been misdiagnosed and has always been mistreated, and has, you know, mental illness. Sometimes people with mental illness are perceived as weaker. It's not true. But, you know, they do have struggles that make them vulnerable to that kind of abuse. And that's fucked up.
Yeah, it's sort of weird to think about, like, throughout history, you have cases where people will probably, you know, it was a simple medical explanation.
Right.
But they put, you know, the supernatural element on it, like possession. And then, like, that's, you know, history. And then even, like, fast forward to more, like, modern day history where you have things that, like, are completely, like, not a mental illness that they would then label mental illness. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like over sex. You know what I mean? Like, if you like a woman and was like, and if you like sex too much, bam, mental illness.
Right.
You know what I mean? So
yeah.
it's just such a delicate balance. Like, you've got to, like, know what the fuck you're talking about, know what the fuck you're doing. Don't just go fucking trying to, like, do some damn
to diagnose people when you have no background,
clue what it is. Yeah. All right, don't be doing that shit. Just saying. So anyway, yes, I actually have an excerpt from the Rite of Exorcism. This is a very long passage, so I just took a tiny little bit of it. I didn't realize the shit was so long. Like, if I had to go through this every fucking exorcism, like, bitch, I got to go. Like,
and there's, like, multiple ones?
Yes. There's, like, multiple ones, and there's a bunch of stuff. I mean, you come in, you know, you do your cross symbols, you do all that. But anyway, Here we go. So I'm going to try and get into it a little bit, okay?
Okay. Okay.
I cast you out, unclean spirit, along with every satanic power of the enemy, every specter from hell, and all your fell companions. In the name of our Lord Jesus Christ, begone and stay far from this creature of God. For it is he who commands you, he who flung you headlong from the heights of heaven into the depths of hell. It is he who commands you, he who once stilled the sea and the wind and the storm. Hearken, therefore, and tremble in fear, Satan, you enemy of the faith, you foe of the human race, you begetter of death, you robber of life, you corrupter of justice, you root of all evil and vice, seducer of
liquor. That's all I can think about.
Seducer of men, betrayer of the nations, instigator of envy, font of avarice, fomenter of discord, author of pain and sorrow. Now, that is a motherfucking read, if I have ever heard one.
It is.
That is the read of the century.
Is it weird that it sounds really familiar to me? And I can't tell if it's just because I'm like goth or if I'm like a 6,000-year-old demon.
Maybe. You're like having
I'm
memories.
Like, now that sounds
like
familiar.
Flashbacks. It's just you. Yeah. Like trying to latch on to some... Oh, okay. Makes a lot of sense. We just got real. All right. Why then do you stand and resist, knowing as you must that Christ the Lord brings your plans to nothing? Fear him who in Isaac was offered in sacrifice, in Joseph sold into bondage, slain as the paschal lamb, crucified as man, yet triumphed over the powers of hell. The 3 signs of the cross which followed are traced on the brow of the possessed person. So trace the brow of the cross. Begone then in the name of the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit. Give place to the Holy Spirit by the sign of the Holy Cross of our Lord Jesus Christ, who lives and reigns with the Father and the Holy Spirit, God, forever and ever. Amen.
There you go. You can get your exorcism weekly. We just exorcised all of you. Do you feel cleaner?
Just exorcised all of you, all your damn demons.
All of them. That we gave you.
Yes. We just actually, I say that and then we just actually disappear.
Fuck. God, that would suck.
So yeah, if you ever have any demons, like I can probably sell some of these if you want. I can just record random prayers.
You're gonna start hawking the rights. I think you could be an auctioneer if this whole podcast thing doesn't work out for you.
I can't talk that fast.
You could be like the slow jam auctioneer.
That's what I'd be. That's exactly what I'd be. So.
I love it. Awesome.
Yes.
Wow.
That is our episode tonight.
We hope that all of you are safe. We hope that none of you are plagued with horrible demons. We hope that everything's going fine. We hope you had a good dinner. Or breakfast or lunch.
Whatever it is. Yeah.
Or coffee.
Or tea.
Or water. Drink a glass of water today. Just do that for me.
Drink a glass of holy water.
Do that for me. Doesn't have to be holy water. It might actually be sacrilege to drink holy water.
Oh.
But drink a glass of water. Stay hydrated. Just a tip.
You're just the tip.
Just the tip.
Just the tip.
Just the tip from the Haunted Heart.
I think that's a new segment.
I love that. Yes.
All right, guys. So that's it.
That's it. That's a wrap.
That's it. That's a wrap. We love you. We love all of our listeners.
Come chill with us on Facebook. Come chill with us on Patreon. And until next week, stay spooky.